Hi, this is Kevin. Welcome to my tutorial on the program called Create State Area Reports. So in this program, we're going to be analyzing some more data. Okay, so um, the data that we're going to be using is going to be available to you in the starter files. Okay, and there's going to be three things that we need to bring over. We need to bring over the data, which is called state area data.txt. And then we've got two pieces of Python code that we're going to bring over. One is called mystates.py, and the other one is called IS430 unit test helpers at .py. So let's bring over the Python first, okay? So I'm going to bring over the mystates.py. And again, I like to copy them to make sure that I don't lose my copy. I'm just going to paste it into my project and say, okay. So there's mystates.py. And the unit test helpers is something that I use in that code. So I want to bring that over because I'm going to need it. Okay. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to bring over the data, which is called state area data.txt. Okay, so let's put that in the data and say okay. And here's state area data.txt. So this is kind of like a comma separated value file, but it doesn't follow the conventions of a proper comma separated value file in that the fields are separated by semicolons, so we're going to have to remember that. And we don't have that sort of initial record that has the names of the columns. Okay, so yes, it's a separated value file, but it is not a classic CSV file. Okay, so we've got a bunch of states here. We've got 20 of them. We don't have all 50. And we've got two values. It's going to turn out that they're land area in square miles and water area in square miles. And I think I got these data from Wikipedia. Okay, and that's where they come from. All right, so that's that. So what are we going to try to produce from this? Well, we're going to try to produce reports. Okay. And we're just going to report the data as we get it, right? So we've got the states. So we've got the land area in square miles. We've got the water area in square miles. But then we're going to report the total area in square miles, which is the sum of those two. And we're going to produce two reports, one in state name order and the other in descending total area in square miles. So it's going to turn out that we're going to have to find a way to hold these data in some kind of a list, okay? And then we're going to have to sort the list two times. Once on the basis of the state name, and then the other time on the basis of the total area in square miles. Okay, and after having sorted the list, we're going to have to use a list to produce a report. Okay, and okay, so I don't have pseudocode for this because I didn't write any. But it's worth it for us to talk about some pseudocode. Okay, so let's just kind of go through it. Okay, so we're going to need to select the input file. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to select the input file. Okay, and then we're going to build a list holding state area information. Okay, I'm going to be vague about that for now. Okay, so let's call it state area list. Okay, so we're going to build a state area list. Okay, and then we're going to say, okay, we're going to sort state area list by state name. Okay, and then we're going to print report using state area list. Okay, and then we're going to sort state area list by descending total area in square miles. Okay, and we're going to print report using state area list. Okay, and let's see. Before we build our state area list, we need to open our input file. And after we build our state area list, we'll have read it all. We can close our input file. It's not input. Okay. And I think that's about it. Right? Okay, this is a pretty common pattern for these kind of report programs, right? All right. Now, how are we going to hold the state area data in our list? Well, it turns out we're going to take the same approach that that Zelle talks about in his chapter 11. He had a class hanging around from his chapter 10, a student class, and he used that, and he created a list of students, and I think he sorted them, and we're going to use the same kind of approach. We're going to use a custom Python class to hold the data for state area. Okay, and that is going to be this my states. So let's open up my states, and we'll see. Now, right now, we're just going to learn how to use a class like this. And if I were to give it a description, we've called this a data holder class. Okay, so this is the relevant information right here, the highlighted stuff. Okay. We say that we're going to have a class called state. We're using a Python directive called, it's just percent data class. And this turns on a feature which generates a data holder class for us, and it builds a lot of the code kind of under the covers, so that we just have to say a few things in order to get the class generated for us. We have to say what the fields are. Okay, we say that we're going to have a state name field, it's a string. We're going to have a land area in square miles field, it's an int. We're going to have a water area in square miles field, it's an int. And we're going to have a method that is here for our convenience. It calculates the total area in square miles. And you might say, well, geez, we could do that ourselves, but there's a whole lot of times where we want to make sure that everybody does the math the same way. And so we'll put in one of these convenience methods to make sure that it's easy to get the values. So we don't store values that we can calculate, but we typically will provide a method that will, for our convenience, it will do the calculation in a standard way. Okay, and the way I used to teach this skill, the amount of code that we had for this was maybe 70 lines long, 100 lines long, and now this is about 10 lines long because this is the first semester in the spring of 2022 that we're using this data class feature. And in order to use that, we have to import data class from the package data classes. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's some unit test code. And I'll probably show you some of that when we're in class, but I'm not going to show you that now. So the question is, what do you have to know to use this class? And you have to know two things. What data does can it hold? And what behavior does it provide? So what data does it hold? These three fields: state name, land area, blah, blah, water area, blah, blah. And what behavior does it provide? Well, one method, calculate total area in square miles. Okay, so let's do some playing around, which is how these kind of classes work. Okay, and I'm going to pause while I get the file that I want to show you. So pause here. Okay, we're back. And I just added one more file to the starter files. This one is called state class practice. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to paste this into my project. Okay, and let's just take a look at this. So what's it like to use one of these classes? Okay, so first of all, you need to import the module that holds the class. So we say from my states, this is called my states.py. You don't put the .py on it. Import state, okay, and we just saw in my states .py we've got the state class. That's where it comes from. And we know it's got three fields and one method, right? Okay, and now if I look at this practice class, let's just toggle some of this into a comment so we can see it, okay? Okay. So here's what I did. I constructed a new state by calling state, and I passed it three values: Wisconsin, 150,000.25, 10,500.25, And now I'm just going to say that I want to print. Let's just say I want to print S1. Okay. So let's look at this. The name states is not defined. And where was that? I didn't like that. Print states. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to put that into a. There we go. Yeah. Oh, well, that's okay. I had something that I forgot to put into a comment, so we're going to run it again. Okay, and here's what we are. So when we print one of these, when we print uh, an instance of one of these, kind of data holder classes, um, it prints the name of the class and then each of the fields. State name is Wisconsin, land area in square miles is that value, water area in square miles is that value. What about the total area in square miles? Well, it's not holding that value, okay? We have a method to call to calculate that value for us, but as a general principle, we don't store redundant information. And redundant information includes anything that can be derived from the information that we have. So what we do is that we store just, uh, uh, you know, the minimum information that we need, and then anything that we want to derive from it, we provide a method to do that. In that case, we've got a pretty simple one that it does the adding for us. Okay. Uh, let's look at some of the other things that we could do. Okay. Um, I'm not saying that S1 is a good variable name, but it stands for state one. Okay. So here's what I've decided to do. I'm going to print I'm going to untoggle that from a comment. Okay. And I'm going to print the state name field of the S1 object, the land area in square miles field of the S1 object, and the water area in square mile fields for the S1 object. So let's just do those. Okay, and you can see I get Wisconsin, and then the land area, and then the water area. And I just want to point out that um, in the Zelle book, he accesses fields by calling these methods that he writes called getters. And that's not really the way that Python people do it. Python people just access the field just the way that we're doing it here. Okay? The way that he was doing it is more the way you do it in kind of Java and C++ and in languages kind of like that. In Python, you just access the field, which we're doing. Okay, now I'd like to draw a distinction between accessing the fields and calling a method. Okay. So first of all, let's call the methods that calculates the total area. Okay, so there it is. It's the sum of those two. Okay. And when you're calling a method, you have a parens on right after the name of the method. That's not how you know you're calling a method. Okay. Well, why is that? Well, sometimes when you call a method, you need to pass parameters in. Okay. This isn't a method that takes any parameters. How do we know that it doesn't take any parameters? Well, if we look at it, we can see that it doesn't take any formal parameters. every method in a class has an implicit parameter called self that refers to the object that you're in. But if it has other parameters, they come out here and there. And of course, we don't have any. Okay? Okay, so there's our practice. So there we are. Okay. And so can we put these things into a uh, list? Yes, we can. Let's do this. Let's create two more of these objects and then put called S2 and S3 and then put uh, let's put them into a list called states. Okay, that's going to hold all three. So uh, the second one is Illinois. The third one is Florida. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, and we didn't print anything, but let's print states. And turns out this is pretty long. So this has three states in it. Okay. The first one was Wisconsin. Now here's Illinois, and now here is Florida. Okay, I'm not saying that they're easy to read in this format, but when you print things as part of your testing, well, they come out in a pretty version. Okay, so this is what we have here. So here's what we're going to do in our program. We're going to read in the state data off of the file, and we're going to build state objects, okay, and then we're going to place them in a list, okay, and then we're going to sort that list, and then we're going to use the sorted list to create a report, okay, and we've done well, we haven't done the sorting and reporting, but we've done the beginnings of that here in this practice. Okay, so let's close these. We'll hold on to my states, and let's create a new Python file. And this one is called, let me find it. I'm in the wrong one. Yeah, here I am. This one is called create state area reports. Okay, so copy. Oh, we're not going to copy. We're going to say, I apologize for my disorientation. It's been a long day so far. So new Python file, create state area reports. Okay. All right, and I'm going to bring over some code from my already baked version. Okay. So, my doc string, print a report of state area records from a file in two different sort orders. And I'm going to have to import my state class, which is in my states. Now, the name of this package, I create hyphenated package names for the things that we create in our class to really distinguish them from the built-in packages that come with Python and some of the packages that are distributed by third parties. Is it common for people to create hyphenated package names? No, not really. That's why I'm using the hyphenated ones to make it a little bit easier to see that these are the ones that we've created as part of our class. Okay, so now we've got our main, And down the bottom here in the end, we're eventually going to have a call to main, right? An invocation of it. Okay, that looks good. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing that we said that we were going to do was we were going to get our file. We're going to select our file, and then the second thing that we were going to do from it is that we were going to build our list of state objects. And what I've done in my design here, which is a little different than the pseudocode we were showing, it's a little summarized. Let's see if we can find that pseudocode. Is this it? Yeah, this is the pseudocode. So I said, what I've done is I've taken all this early stuff and I've, instead of coding it inline and then kind of refactoring it out to its own function, I've created a single function in which the user is going to select the input file. We're going to open it. We're going to build this state area list, and we're going to close the file. And as a result of that, we're just going to have one function that does all of that. Okay, and that's going to be called get states. And let me bring over get states. All right, so a bunch of room, and now we're going to have get states. So what are we going to do? Well, I've got my normal stuff up here where I'm declaring a directory called data, and I prompt the user, and then I build the in-file path and name. Then I open it for reading. Okay, so this is all pretty standard stuff. Okay, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build the list that's going to hold the data. Okay, and each item on the list is going to hold an instance of the state class. Okay, so I create a list that's empty called my states. Okay, and for line and in file, okay, I'm going to split the line on the semicolon. Remember, these are separated by a semicolon. And I'm going to get state name, land area as string, water area as string. Okay. And then I'm going to append to the list my states. I'm going to put an item in. I'm going to add it to the end. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm just going to pass a constructed state object. So I call the constructor for state with the name state, and I pass state name. I pass a float of land area as string and a float of water area as string. So when I make this call, I'm going to get back a state object, okay, and that's what I'm going to append into my list. Okay, so I'm going to go around, and for every line that I have in my file, I'm going to add a state object into the list. Okay. Then I'm going to close the file, and then I'm going to return the list. How does this work if I have an empty state file? Let's see. I have an empty list of states. Okay. And then I say for line and in file. Okay. That's I don't have any lines, so we don't do any work, and then we close it, and what I return an empty my states. It's perfect. For in is beautiful. So this is how we get our list of states. Okay, what's next? All right. So let's look back to that pseudocode that we have. Okay. We're going to do sort, report, sort, report. That's pretty easy. Okay. Now, let's bring over some sorting code. Okay. Some sort and report code. So I'm going to skip a line after this. And I've got, so in the main, this list is called states. Okay. And I call the sort method on states. And I have to tell it what the key is. There are some kinds of lists, like a list of ints, for instance, or lists of floats, where you can sort them by just calling sort, because the sort can tell from the kind of object that you're sorting that it has a natural sort order. These state objects that we haven't implemented a sort order for them. In any case, object types can only have one natural sort order. So we have to know how to tell it how to sort in different ways. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass the name of a function called by state name. All right. Now where's that going to go? Well, I guess it'll go just after get states. Okay, so let's look at by state name. Okay. Couple blank lines, by state name. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, so we're passing the name of the function to the sort. Okay. We're not calling this. Sort is going to call it. Okay. And when it calls it, it's going to pass this, and it's going to pass it the object that is in the next item of the list. Okay. Well, we know that all of the items in the list are state instances. They're instances of the state class. Okay. So here's what we can do. The formal parameter that we're going to get is that we're going to call state instance, and we're going to return state instance.state name, because we're trying to sort by name. So this is giving sort a function to call to get the value out of the object so we can sort it by that. Okay, so if we go back up here, okay, so we say states.sort key equals state name, even though this is the name of a function. Okay. It doesn't end with parens. Why is that? It's because we're not calling it. Okay. We're passing the function so sort can call it. Now, you can't do this in every computer programming language, but in Python you can, because functions are what we call first-class objects, and you can pass them to other functions. Okay. So it's possible to put parens here. Okay. And in fact, sometimes when you're trying to code this, you can accidentally get them. So let's say we're trying to code this keyword parameter, and we say by, and it goes by state name, and let's just do enter. Do you see how we got the parens there? Okay, we don't want them. That will not work. Okay, so this is a problem with this auto-completion version of PyCharm. So again, we're not calling by state name. We are passing a reference to the function so sort can call it. All right, that looks good. And now we're going to call a function called print report. Okay, it's going to print the data that's in the states list. Okay. And we're doing a little trick here. This is something that we do when we're going to print the same report in more than one sort order. We're just going to write one function to write a report And before we call it, we're going to do the sorting here in the main. And then when we call it, we'll pass it the data already sorted, and we'll say, what's the name of this? What's the title of the report? So the title of the report is by state name. All right, let's go take a look at print report. Okay. Now, print report is pretty straightforward, except for all the formatting that we do with F strings. Okay, so let's see, we've got get states here, by state name. Let's go down and put in print report. Okay, so what are the formal parameters? Well, we're going to get the states list. I gave it a different name, so just to emphasize the fact that we're being passed this. So I called it these states. Okay, and I called the title for the report title. So let's look through the logic of it in a pretty straightforward way. We're going to print some blank lines. We're going to print the title, another blank line. We're going to print one line of column headers. We're going to print a second line of column headers. Okay, and now we're going to print the data. So we're going to say for state in these states, print, okay, and then all of the data is going to come out of the reference to the variable state dot, okay, and what are we going to get? Well, we're going to get the state name from a field, so no parens. We're going to get the land area in square miles from another field, so no parens. We're going to get the water area in square miles from yet another field, so no parens. But we're going to get the total area in square miles from a method. So we're going to call calculate total area in square miles. This is going to get parens because we're calling the method. Okay, so what's all the formatting that goes on? Well, let me find my somewhere here. I have got my report. So here's what things are supposed to look like. Let's get back to this, right? Okay, so when we loaded up the data, we prompted for the file name. Okay, so now the first time we call print report, here's the title that we're looking for. It's been centered. Okay, so we're going to have to see how you center a title. Okay, and then we've got state, land area in square miles, water area in square miles, total area in square miles, and then we've got the data. Okay, so what are the tricks to all this? Well, when you're formatting these things, do you want to center the line? That's a trick. And how wide is it? Okay, I think these are each 15, and this is 20, so 3 times 15 is 45, plus 20 is 65. Okay, so we're centering this in 65 spaces. Okay, and the number fields are right justified. We've added in comma separators where we've asked for 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. And as is typical, these text fields are left justified. And we typically justify the column heading in the same way that we do the data that are under it. Okay, so now if we come back here, we'll see, oh, apparently the name of the state in this case is only 15. So 15, 15, 15, 15, 4 times 15 is 60. Okay, so the report titled this caret sign, this hat symbol, it says centered, and then we have in what width, so centered in 60 characters. Okay, so on these headings, the lesson sign left justified in 15 positions. Then the next three, right justified in 15. And then on the next line, even the ones that don't have a value, you have to put in an empty field for them. Okay, and then there's a trick here with the data. If you made a single F string, okay, it would go right off the right-hand side of the page. And there's a convention for strings inside of parentheses that I never knew until recently, okay? And here's how it works, okay? Enclosing bracket does not match indentation. It doesn't like that. So let's move that back there. It likes that. Okay. All right. So we've got this. So what happens is you can break your strings up into multiple strings. Not all of them have to be F strings. So you could have a normal string, an F string, a normal string, an F string. What I did is I did each of these individually, okay? And what happens is that you can just put them down one per line like this, no commas in between them. Implicitly, there's a concatenation. So implicitly, there's a plus between all the strings, but because the strings are inside of a paren, you don't have to explicitly put that there. So it makes it a really nice thing. So again, we're printing the state name, the land area, blah, blah, the water area, blah, blah. We're calculating the total area in square miles. That's a method call. And the name is left justified 15, and then the numbers are right justified 15 wide, comma separators. 0.2f says 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. Okay, and that's going to do that. So let's do a test run. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, and our file is state area data. State area data.txt. And let's look at this. That's beautiful. So it's been sorted into state name order, okay? And if you wanted to proof these values against the values in the file, I think you could prove that they work. Are we done yet? No. Classically, we do these things in more than one order. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, if we went back to our pseudocode, if we could find that, we would say that we were going to do another sort and report. Okay, let's do it. All right, so let's come up here, up to main. Okay, so we did a sort and a report. And now we're just going to go back and do another sort and a report. Okay. Now, by total area, we don't have that one yet. Okay. Let's clone the one that we already have. We have a by state name. Okay. So let's go down and find by state name. Let's clone that and create a by total area. I could copy the code over, but this is a good thing to do. Okay, so we just do that. So by total area. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to get a state instance that's going to be passed to us by sort. And we're going to pass back not a field, but we're going to have to call the method. Because we calculate, so calculate I don't know why it's not coming up on auto completion, but it should. Calculate total area in square miles. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that because you don't want to watch me type. I'm not that good of a typist, right? So it's just we want to either return the field that we want to sort on, or if we want to sort on a value that comes out of one of the functions, well, then we need to call the function paren. Okay? So this is this. And of course, if we want it in a reverse sort order, because we would like to see it highest to lowest, then we code reverse equal true. And then, of course, when we call the report, we have to pass it our list, and then the report titled by descending total area in square miles. Okay, so let's see that. Let's give that a run. We'll come down here, and we're going to pass state area data. State area data.text. And as you can see here, we have two reports by state name and by descending total area in square miles. And again, let's look at the order. These should be in descending order, and they are. So that's it. The problem that you're going to do is very similar, different data, but the same technique. And I'm going to leave you to do that and say bye. Bye for now.